मित्रों and बंधुओं, welcome to South Asia Maps Intellectual Kshatriya channel. At South Asia Maps, your presenter Dr. J. Reddy will bring you abstract ideas of Indian culture heritage in the form of maps, icons, images, so that the concepts will be easily etched in your mind in the iconographic form. Because I also have very diverse interest, I will also be posting on other similar world geography, human ecology, so on, that are of general interest to many audience. This is part 40th in the human ecology or human impasse. Human ecology, human predicament, human impasse. The topic in the 40th series is Sword of Democles. We will compare with the sword of resource depletion. You see the sword here? He is a Democles. He was one of the courtier of a king in Greece, Democles. Here you see the sword. This is the sword of resource depletion. HC represents Homo colossus. The biological name for humans is Homo sapiens. If he is consuming lot of resources, a resource prodigal, extravagant, Dr. Carton, in his book Overshoot, popularized, coined the term Homo colossus, means gigantic human being. In a sense, 80 kilogram person driving himself in 3000 or 4000 air conditioned centrally heated car at 100 kilometers. Symbolically, you can say. Today we see the fascinating the similarities between the sword of Democles and sword of resource depletion. Sword of Democles indicates what are the perils or issues or concerns or threats of living a royal life. In the medieval Islamic kings, you see the lot of any king is assassinated, overthrown, blinded and so on, the Bahmanis, Mughals and so on. So there is a perils, a generic term, living a royal life, that is the sword of Democles. Sword of resource depletion means there are the perils associated leading after years of exuberance. That means the perils associated with consuming a lot of resources, oil, natural gas, coal, all those things, the depletion of these, that is the peril. In the age of exuberance, that means essentially after 2000 AD. That means we are in the post-exuberant era, and we'll compare these two. That is the sword of Democles, perils of living a royal life, sword of resource depletion, the perils of living in post-exuberant era with immense population, with most of the resources depleted. So before we go to that, and this is Dr. Carton and his monumental pioneering book Overshoot. This is one of the most thought-provoking, considered to be very pioneering book in a sense that if you read the book, you will understand how the society, the politics, economy is running. What are the ideas, concepts that run this system? Not the political leaders or the parliaments, assemblies, the president, prime ministers and so on. This is the ecology, humans interacting with fellow humans, other biotic life, and entire abiotic world. That gives a very fascinating aspect that your presenter, Dr. J. Reddy, so far discussed. Today, this is the 40th part. You can see here, sword of Democles and sword of resource depletion. And this is the 40th part. This is the 40th. We discuss round about so far the 40 series of human ecology carrying capacity taking over, drawing down new world, Homo colossus, Homo sapiens, next 10, that is the detritus ecosystem, ecological ecorages, next 5, that is the human predicament and population, age of exuberance, next the 5 series like the American dream and Canadian dream, how they foundered, collapsed, got stuck with the resource depletion, that is the carrying capacity deficits. There are no carrying capacity surpluses in any of the so-called developed countries or former industrial nations, formal rich societies like America, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. You can look at that. That is around about 18th or 19th in the series, and we looked about ecological overshoot, ecological bloom, ecological crash, diachronic competition. Diachronic means between the two different chronologies. Older generation stealing all the resources, oil, coal, minerals, metals, depleting them, leaving none or very little for the current generation. Very fascinating concept. You can understand cornucopian paradigm, old paradigm, outdated paradigm compared with Dr. Cotton's ecological paradigm. I contrasted these two paradigms in one place, part 27. Hunters and gatherers, traditional before agricultural invented, modern industrial hunters and gatherers, every day hunting for 100 million barrels of oil, millions of tons of the coal, millions of cubic meters of natural gas, and so on. So there are many other fascinating things. You can go and look at it. And this is my main YouTube channel, that is South Asia Maps, Reddy. You can go and look at it. And there are more than 30 playlists, and with more than round about 250 or 60 fascinating presentations. So you can also find me at Twitter site handle India Maps 2. Coming back to the fascinating sword of Democles, sword of resource depletion. Democles was a courtier in the court, royal court of a king of Syracuse in the Greece peninsula across the Mediterranean. Dionysius is the king. One day he thought the king has a very good life he wanted. Dionysius seated him on the royal throne and put a sword on his head hanging by a small thread. So when he was on banquet, always worried that the thread may break, this knife or sword may kill him, essentially denoting there are perils of living a eminent royal life. That is, sword of Democles means a threat that always hangs on you and that can materialize anytime. Similarly, here I made it like a sword of resource depletion. When you are using a lot of resources, Homo colossus, the genetically interbreeding cousin of the Homo sapiens, consuming a lot of resources, gigantic human, a resource prodigal, extravagant. If these resources are depleted, that has been done already, and we are in the post-exuberant era, what will happen to humans? That is, what is age? Abbreviated age of exuberance means 1500 to 2000. 5 centuries, the growth, affluence, prosperity in the new world. That is over. From 2000 AD onwards, we are, entire planet Earth, we are in the post-exuberant era with immense 8 billion population and most of the resources depleted. Let's look at some of the contrast between these two. Character. In the first, the courtier of Democles is the character. Here the character is the Homo colossus, gigantic human being. There are 330 or so in the United States and many more millions in the developed world, so-called former developed world. Most of the countries and people in Africa, Asia, Latin America are becoming modestly colossus or aspiring to become colossus. Though these are the characters. And who is observing what is happening to these? The king who gave the throne for the Democles temporarily, this is called Dionysius, the king of Syracuse, a place or a small city-state called Syracuse, King Dionysius. And who is observing this? Imagine on the planet Earth, Bhumata, the Mother Earth, the Bhudevi, the Lakshmi, the consort of Sri Vishnu, looks at them, what the human beings are doing. That entire Mother Earth, the nature, is looking at what is happening, how the humans, colossuses, behave. Like Dionysus was looking at with glee that Democles, how he is so confused and not enjoying the royal life that he gifted temporarily. The sword, there are two swords, right? This sword is sword of Democles, the sword that hangs on the head of Democles. This sword is the resource sword, essentially the depleted resources, resource depletion, conceptually or virtually we can say. What are the pleasures? The pleasures of Democles was temporarily enjoying the privileges of the king, royal banquets, a lot of the servants serving him and trying to please him. These are all the pleasures. At the same time, he has a perils. The enemy is trying to overthrow him. Of course, always there is a peril that the sword will fall on him. Wherever he is sleeping or standing, that will kill him. These are all the pleasures and perils of the Democles. The pleasures and perils of Homo colossus are nothing but in the age of exuberance, era of prosperity, affluence, and economic progress, he enjoyed lot of wealth, at least certain sections of Homo colossus. 80 kilogram human driving on 5,000 kilogram automobile, air conditioned, centrally heated, an asphalted tarred road at 100 kilometers an hour. These are some of the pleasures. Shopping in air conditioned shopping malls and so on. Traveling one part of the globe, planet Earth, to other at around about 1,000 kilometers an hour in the aeroplane. These are the pleasures. There are also perils. Once the resources deplete, what will happen to this standard of living, this affluence for Homo colossus on the planet Earth today? The pleasures and the perils. What is the situation? The situation for Democles is precariousness. Even though he thought originally the royal life is very exuberant, extravagant things to enjoy, now he sees that it's a very precarious royal life he is living. And also the people who are aware of how this entire system, the concept of taking over, concept of drawing down the carrying capacity, phantom carrying capacity, Homo colossus, Homo sapiens, industrial hunters and gatherers, and all the fossil ecologists, trade ecologists, if you understand, you see these military industrial complexes. That is the modern niches, the software engineer, senior software, product manager, this and this, very high sounding titles and positions we occupy with high development indices. What economists are telling, this is the precariousness, how long they will hold. All these are fossil fuel based niches. Once fossil fuel depletes us, that will happen next to 3 decades, most of it. What will happen? The people who observe, like Dr. Cotton and so on, they are very concerned about the precarious lives of Homo colossus. Delusions. What the Democles was deluded that it's really great to be a king. Now he realized after sitting there under the sword, there are the perils that life. Now Homo colossus now starts seeing the lot of the perils. So some of the aspects here I delineated are AGE, abbreviation Age of Exuberance, 5 centuries of affluence, prosperity, the new world after voyages enjoyed. That was encouraged a sense in these people, especially United States, myth of limitlessness, myth of human exceptionalism. Humans can do anything, everybody can be happy, everybody can do whatever he like. He need not interfere others, others will not interfere them. That is ease of life, that is non-competitive life, called American dream. That is the age of exuberance. Now, age of exuberance is over. After 2000, we are in the post-exuberant era. And he discusses about 1970s oil crisis in the Yom Kippur War, 1973, when oil exporting nations, Arab world, all of a sudden restricted oil supplies to European countries, United States. There is a lot of social consternation. Remember, oil still was plenty. Oil has not depleted in 70s. Only the supply they restricted. And that was in 17s. Of course, later due to other regions that they recovered, they lifted the ban and oil started flowing. But that is gave a trailer, a preview of what is going to happen. That was not in a ecological or physical depletion. What happens once the oil drum totally collapses or empties by 2050 on the planet Earth? How we will face it? This is a very, very serious issue. So that means the age of exuberance, prosperity was not created by the leaders, not created by the politicians, the presidents, prime minister. Dr. Cotton says it was a one-time gift for the humanity, certain sections of humanity in the new world, America, Canada, Australia, and so on. And they thought that they created the democratic countries and all those fanciful, exuberant ideas. Due to ecological exuberance, they gone into emotional exuberance, social exuberance, political exuberance. All these things has to come to now contract in the modern times. That is in brief about the sword of Democles, sword of resource depletion. Dr. Cotton discusses in his fascinating book Overshoot. He mentions, and I have put my own ideas and thought processes, made these two things for you so that you can understand and conceptualize a different way of thinking, how humans' ecology affects us. Politicians, leaders have no role to play on our future. Our future is determined by the nature. Political leaders, prime ministers cannot fill the water aquifers, cannot fill the coal pit, cannot fill the oil wells. These are the one-time resources humans exploited by drawing down, that is enhanced temporarily carrying capacity, phantom carrying capacity, that is almost leaving us, and how to live in the post-exuberant era. Same dilemma, impasse, predicament, like sword of Democles faces, Homo colossus is facing. Hope these things were made clear. You will have a different perspective. Mitram and Bandhuvam, if you like the presentations, I really appreciate you go and subscribe. Consider subscribing the channel. If you are listening me at Share Chat site, I really appreciate you post comments and take few seconds, see like what are the things you would like to listen and how I can make these presentations more productive, enjoyable for you. See you later at other presentations. This is your presenters at South Asia Maps, Dr. J. Reddy.